Good morning, welcome back to my daily race coverage. This is for the Transcontinental Race 2023. The race got underway last night, so the riders have had, the best part of 10 hours riding now. So let's head over to the race tracker and see what's going on. So as you can see, the Transcontinental Race uses the Follow My Challenge tracking software. And yeah, at the moment you see there's over 300 riders, so it's a bit of a mess on the tracker. So we can't really delve too much into it today. We need to give it a bit more time just to settle down a bit. But you can see there's a couple of names we may recognise at the front. That's Robin Gemperle there. Christof Strasser was up there as well. But yeah, like I say, 10 hours into the best. Well, it's going to be a week or so at least for the leaders. I would have thought probably 7 or 8 days. So yeah, there's not really too much we can look into, but the main thing we can see is that there's a kind of a split down the field here. Basically that's the Ardennes there, so we'll head over to Rabi GPS in a second to do a little bit more route analysis. But yeah, there's a quite a good spread now. So over the next few days I think we'll see some clearer patterns arriving. Just a note on the weather. It's been pretty bad conditions. Rain overnight and a fair bit of wind. It looks like it's kind of a bit of a cross headwind, so that's going to affect the riders. Not wanting to load up on my laptop at the moment, but yeah, it was looking like it's going to be a rough start to the Transcontinental Race. As you can see, there's big fronts coming in, and as they hit towards the mountains, I suspect it could get interesting for them. So there's some cold air sitting across the Alps. So yeah, Europe's been having a massive heat wave, but it looks like it's ended just in time for the Transcontinental Race. So yeah, it's going to be a rough few days for them. Just make sure, if you want to get my daily updates, make sure you do subscribe to my channel, and yeah, hopefully I'll be able to give you daily updates. Big thank you to Holy Fat for sponsoring my coverage this year. So they make, amongst other things, basically nut butters, which are these things here, and bars using cocoa and things like that. Basically low carb, but relatively high fat content, so they're excellent for these long steady efforts such as the Transcontinental Race. I use them myself, and yeah, they're really good. It's surprising actually how much energy and how consistent that energy is from these bars. So I'll put all the details below. Go and have a look if you're interested in that. Now onto the race. So the Transcontinental Race is a free route race, as I discussed yesterday in the pre-race coverage. I've made a bit of a route here on Rabi GPS. Now I've not dug into details on this, certainly this first part, because there's so many different options and so many roads to take, so riders are going to be spread all over the place. But the first checkpoint is down in the Alps, so there's a mandatory parcours. So if I zoom in here, it's a Spluga Pass. So this yellow section I've highlighted, that is the mandatory parcours, and the checkpoint up in Lavinia, Hotel Allegra. So the riders need to make their way south. So I've basically, this is the route. If I was doing it, this is kind of the rough route I do. I've not gone through it with a fine tooth comb. I think there's a lot of cycle paths and things. The thing about the Transcontinental Race is, if you're planning your own route, basically it rewards you to be on slightly faster roads rather than the small twisty lanes. I think this route here, because I haven't dug into it, there is a lot of more twisty cycle lanes and things like that. But the rough route, this is the rough route I'd be taking. Now, if we looked at the tracker, you saw there was a big split through, basically some riders going kind of through Luxembourg and the others heading straight south into France. Now, if we put the terrain layer on, it begins to become a bit more clear as to why that's happened, and you can see the Ardennes in the middle here. So either riders have gone to the east of the Ardennes down this valley here, or they've gone straight south, cut through, and then are heading into France where it's a little bit flatter. I'd probably take the route through France. As you can see, I've plotted it here, and I guess the northern riders are probably going to cut across into through Strasbourg, and there's the big valley here, nice and flat, although it is a little bit busier in there in the Rhine. There's not many crossing places. You can cross over, but I find it's a bit more traffic intense. Or we can go this way And I think basically most riders are going to be heading towards Basel. I can't really see that there's many other options to get into that way. There is actually a road resource map provided by the race organisers, which you can see here. So essentially there are a lot of tunnels that you can't cycle through and roads which are banned for safety reasons because they're too busy. And this is the map here. I'll put the link again in the description. And you can see here there's a few roads banned, but in this early part, I mean, it's basically just free rein. As long as you're not riding on a road that is illegal to cycle on, i.e. a motorway, or there's a tunnel that is like cycling's banned in, you can basically kind of go pretty much where you want. So not until the next few days will we see these banned roads and tunnels become an issue. But yeah, this is the route I would do roughly. I've not really dug into it with a fine-tooth comb. If I was racing this, I'd plot the rough route like this, and then I just dig in and I'd almost review every single mile of it. But I've not done so on this, so you can see quite a few cycle paths denoted by the checkered lines on this map here. I'd probably go a bit more direct on the bigger roads if I was racing, but yeah, like I said, it doesn't make any difference right now. It just gives a rough idea of what's going on, and I think we've seen the majority of people take a very similar route to the one I would have done. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops in the next day, and later on the race there's going to be some big decisions on routing. Sometimes it is quicker to actually go a longer way but a flatter way or on a faster road rather than directly over like a mountainous region. So, some riders may favour the climbing and the slower roads, and others may just, might just want to get down in a time trial position and just smash out miles as quick as they can. So there's going to be a lot of things to analyse as the race progresses. So yeah, I'll leave that there. If you want to have a dig into this, I'll put the link to the collection on Ryby GPS in the description below, and you can have a play around and look. There's the whole route that I would do, and there's loads of and I've done separate ones for the parcours and the checkpoints, and then I've also put in some points of interest, the big passes, the main passes that the riders will have to pass, and the checkpoints and the start and the finish of the parcours. So yeah, head over to that if that's the kind of thing that you are interested in. The link to the road resource map is also on there. A few other little things just to talk about before I've got some video from the start, so we'll get onto that in a second, and a few interviews. Just a few points on the Transcontinental Race. Obviously this is pretty much the biggest race on the calendar in terms of participation and kind of the organisation around it. There is a diversity fund. So basically there's a bursary available to riders who maybe may not be able to afford to get to the start. It's quite an expensive endeavour. So it's the Mike Call bursary, and Mike was very keen on inclusion. So yeah, the bursary designed to make the Transcontinental Race more inclusive and open to those who otherwise could not afford to race, to introduce new people to the race and the community, and tell new stories from underrepresented or seldom heard voices. So there's a few riders in there. We'll touch on those as the race progresses. I think there was 4 riders this year, and yeah, we'll make sure I touch on those as the race continues. The other thing that the Transcontinental Race are doing is pushing sustainability. We all know that the global warming is a thing. It's not made up. The world is warming up at an unsustainable rate. Just look at the weather we've seen in the south of Europe, 35-40 degrees over the last few weeks. It may not look like it now with the race starting in the rain, but those riders are going to have to face some serious heat, and that is changing. And the Transcontinental Race are trying to do something about it. I mean, they're not going to stop it, but it's a process, and they're trying to do their little bit. So there's a low carbon travel fund, basically a £250 grant made available to 10 riders to support them to travel overland to and from the race rather than flying. Now, I mean, just an example. So I was in Girona earlier this year. I was down there for a race and work, so I drove down there with the work vehicle, and I mean the ferry. Well, I went on the Eurostar, probably £150 on the Eurostar. The best part of probably about £150 on tolls on the motorways, and then 2 or 3 tanks of diesel £100 each. So that soon adds up. And then my partner and daughter joined me for the second half of the trip. They flew in to Girona, and that flight cost £35. So, I mean, you can see why people do fly. It's so much cheaper and faster. There's no incentive to not fly. So hopefully this travel fund is going to make a difference to a few people and show it can be done. To accompany that, they've also got a green leaderboard. So kind of much like the Tour de France has, the various jerseys within the overall race. The green leaderboard is a leaderboard for riders who have made the commitment to travel to and from the race overland and not fly. So yeah, we'll touch on that as well as the race progresses. So yeah, Transcontinental Race, obviously a big thing, a big deal. Lots of people on it, lots of eyes on it, and they're trying to do their bit. So yeah, it's good to kind of support that. Right, onto the race itself. So I actually had a top secret roving reporter on the ground in Geeradsbergen. It was actually my mum. She's quite involved in the race as well. She's one of the head dot watchers. So behind the race, there's an army of dot watchers. Every rider has got someone looking out for them essentially. So I'll touch on that maybe later on in the coverage, and maybe speak to my mum about that and how it works. But for now, I've got some sort of behind the scenes of what went on and a few interviews. So registration. Registration basically in a big sports hall in the centre of Geeradsbergen. And you can see here there's bike checks. You have to sign your disclaimers and show your insurance on and all of that side of things. And then the start is in the centre of Geeradsbergen. And the locals come out with flaming torches. So yeah, there's basically a lap of the town first, and so this would have been sort of the neutral start, and then basically the riders come around and head up the Kapelmuur, which is one of the most famous climbs in the Tour of Flanders. And so that was the start last night. It was 10 p.m. local time, so not quite dark, and the riders head off into the night. As you can see, conditions aren't looking great. It's looking pretty wet for the first few days of the race, so it's going to be a rude awakening to TCR life. So I've also got video. This is the leaders heading up the Muur, and as you can see, the front guys are going pretty hard. I mean, I've been up there twice on the start of TCR, and I'm not going to lie, I went as hard as I could. It's just, yeah, I don't know, just something that you feel like you need to do. And you can see like the line of torches all the way up there. It's a pretty cool atmosphere and quite unique in the world of cycling, and a nice way to get sent off. But it's really weird. You get all this noise, all these lights, and then you get over the Kapelmuur, past the chapel at the top, and then suddenly it's silence. No one around, just you on the road. And I think when I did it the first time in 2015, I got over there, and then I think I went a bit of a weird route. I didn't see anyone the whole night until the next day. It's a different deal now. There's so many riders in the race that you can't not see someone. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So yeah, we've also got kind of a few interviews with a couple of riders just to see how they're feeling. There's a lot of new riders actually on the race, people who haven't done it before, and are new to like the world of bikepacking. The Transcontinental Race is quite open to get new riders in, and yeah, quite a few are taking part for the first time. So there's a few. I've got 5 or 6 little interviews, and we'll see what people are feeling before the start.
Hi. Your first TCR is this?
Yes.
It's our first TCR.
Yeah? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, pretty nervous.
I'm terrified, but I'm ready.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are you used to riding together long distances?
Probably not enough, but...
I started riding a bike about 6 months ago, so John has had to upskill me very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've done a few rides together, but I think probably more would have been better, but...
We're the underdog team.
Yeah.
Well, you'll find out how it all goes in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Let me unmute myself. So that was Caps 337, Sarah Ruggins and John Sowler. So If you're racing as a pair, you have the same cat number, then you have an A and a B. So that's a good way to tell the pair's racing. So hopefully they enjoy it and get on well. Then we've got Anne-Sophie Gerlish, cap 285. So let's hear what she had to say.
Good morning. Your cap number?
285.
285. And this is your first TCR?
It's my first TCR, yeah.
Have you done a long race like this before?
Not in a race setting, only just on holiday.
Okay.
But this is going to be totally different. So I'm a little bit scared, but also really excited for this race. Yeah.
And what are you looking forward to most?
No rain. So I think the first 3 days will be horrible. And hopefully I will make it to the upcoming days without any rain and enjoy it a little bit.
Good. Hope you find the sunshine.
Yes, thanks.
So yeah, that was Anne-Sophie Gerlish, hoping for no rain. Unfortunately, I don't think her dreams are going to come true for the first few nights. But the nice thing about the TCR is you do kind of get rewarded with warmer climates as you head further south. So it is incentive to carry on, but I mean it can be grim. And those Alps, I mean the first TCR I did in 2014, it absolutely hammered it down. Going in a similar route, I headed through Zurich and then up towards Davos and then dropped into Stelvio, so probably slightly further east than the riders will be going this time, but yeah, it was cold. I got tendonitis in my Achilles, and yeah, things like that do happen. Your muscles are tighter and you get little niggles and it's just grim. You're spending more energy trying to keep warm, so yeah, hopefully it does warm up by the time the riders get to the Alps, but it's probably not. So yeah, that's racing the TCR, isn't it? Another little interview. This is Graham Faraday, cap 158, and so he's actually volunteered for the last few years, and now he's finally taken the race on. So let's see what he says.
Right. Is this your first TCR?
It's my first TCR as a rider. I've volunteered on the last 4 races.
Oh, right. What's your name?
Graham Faraday.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes, I know the name well.
Yes. So yeah, I was out here. I dot watched TCR number 5. I was out here as a start volunteer, TCR number 6, and also dot watched that year. And I was dot watched TCR number 7 and back out here at the start last year. So,
Wow. So how are you feeling at the moment?
a mix of kind of nervous, excited. Don't know whether I'm confident or not, but see how it goes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so that's Graham. He's obviously volunteered a few times. Actually, one way, because there's so much demand for the Transcontinental Race now. I mean, when I started doing it, there was 50 riders the first year, maybe 150 the second, and now there's over 300. And there's limited places. There's only so many people you can send off across Europe like this. So yeah, it's some riders can get in on merit. And there's quite a long application process, and you know, if you've got history of doing well in races, you can normally get your there's kind of an allocation for riders who've got sort of past results, and then there's an allocation for riders who have volunteered. So one way to sort of guarantee is by volunteering, whether it's doing dot watching, which I'll touch on as the race progresses, or going to the start or manning a checkpoint. That normally helps you get in. So obviously that's what Graham's done, and then the rest is kind of a lottery. So yeah, it's tough to get into now. Few more riders to hear from. So the next rider, let's hear from Nikki Shaw. I spoke about her in my race preview the other day. So yeah, let's see what Nikki has to say.
Let's speak to Nikki Shaw. Hi, Nikki.
Hey.
What are your plans for your route this time?
Plans for the route? Oh, that would be giving things away, wouldn't it? But I suppose it's just too late for anyone to be changing their route decisions. It's just like head pretty much direct to checkpoint 1 and then across the Alps, try and stay low in the valleys. Across through Slovenia and then down through the Balkans. I'm going to be staying inland. I think it's just a decision of whether to go down the Croatian coast or stay inland, but inland is definitely on paper the better decision, so that's what I'll be doing.
And any sleep strategy?
Sleep strategies, none for the first night because hopefully I'll be nice and fresh, so just ride straight through the first night, and then after that I'll be stopping to sleep every night about 3 to 4 hours. Probably 50-50 in terms of hotels and bivvy, sleeping outside, but obviously very dependent on the weather as well. And just take it as it comes really. If it's going to be wet and miserable, then I'll just find somewhere inside to sleep.
Brilliant. Well, good luck.
So yeah, so that's Nikki Shaw. Seems like she has a good plan. She's, like I said in the preview, she's pretty experienced at this kind of thing now. So she kind of knows what she's doing. So yeah, I think the route planning is a big part of this. There is no fixed route, so like I said, we'll be delving into the route quite a lot as the race goes on and looking at all the different options. But I think most people are doing what Nikki's doing. There seems to be, the vast majority are going straight down towards Basel. I think pretty much every rider is going to pass through or near Basel. As we saw on my Rider GPS. Couple more riders. So I spoke to Sherry, who runs Buzzle on Cycling's podcast. She's riding as a pair. And
Hello, Sherry. My turn to interview this time for Josh. So, how are you feeling before the start of the race?
A bit nervous, but exciting for the adventure. Let's see what it comes ahead on the road.
What are you looking forward to most?
I think the unexpected beauty of the places Josh mentioned during our interview. So let's see if it's true.
I hope you find them. Thank you.
so that was Sherry. I'll actually put a link to the interview below. It's the first time. Shared a few questions. For me, about the race. So yeah, it was nice to speak to her. So I'll put the link in the description. So good luck to all the riders. I'll leave it there for now. I'll be back in the morning. I'll be back every morning. Try and get the video up around 10 a.m. UK time. So yeah, let's see what happens over the first day of the race. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any updates, and I'll see you again in the morning.